no unique invoice number. We need to generate that. We'll go do that, but we have to get a unique number. Now you remember that to get a unique number, we have to pull it from somewhere. We have to store it somewhere and keep incrementing it so it stays unique. You remember that inside this file, in the VG invoices file, we have already set aside an invoice number field. It's 6 characters long and it's .0. In other words, it can hold up to 1 million numbers, 0 through 999,999. That's going to cover most companies in terms of invoices. But where will we get the unique number from? Remember, we designed a control file, a one-record file where we keep these kinds of numbers that increase. Let's call this invoice number. And it's 6 characters, .0 type. Escape, we'll press X. Now we have to create a screen. Let's do that. We don't have to do anything else, so we're fine. Let's go right into that file, VG invoice. I want to go into VG control, and on the very first record, I want to now update that new field we just added. By the way, you see we're at 40 different customers in this file already. We'll leave that number. We certainly don't want to change it. Let's start this number. You know, there's no reason why I can't start an invoice number at 1, except that if you do ever start an invoice number at 1, most companies are going to say, hey, what are you, a brand new company? Or how come we're getting invoice 1 or invoice 19? Doesn't sound right, you know. But in any case, you could start it anywhere you want. How about if we started at invoice, how about 100, just to give us a little bit of credibility, as if we've been doing business for at least 3 minutes. Okay, now that we have that defined, we can go into processing on our file, which would be VG invoices. What happened there? 5. VG invoice file. And in here on the input table, after they get asked, does everything look okay? We're going to, after they say yes to that, just before they end, we're going to say if the invoice number, let's go look at that screen, if invoice number, and I don't want to use the numbers, I don't want to do invoice number equals something. I just don't like numbers and things. We're saying if it's equal to null, then do something. Matter of fact, I'm going to check the syntax on this. It beeped anyway. Invoice number, it doesn't like invoice number. We don't know why, but we're not going to deal with it. I don't want to put invoice number there. I usually would name something like this invoice underscore number. But in any case, I'll just use the real field. I don't want to use the word invoice. I'll just use if 1 is equal to null. If the invoice number is empty, let's go get one. And we'll do that in a subroutine, of course. Well, we call it getNum. Okay? And where do we put subroutines? As close as we can below the end of whatever processing we're in. In other words, if we're in input processing, here's the end for input processing. We've got to put it right below here and above all these when leaving fields, which have subroutines of their own below them. Everything's top down. Remember this, I'm going to keep kind of pushing this on you all the time. Top down, top down. So right when we say go to a subroutine here and come back, we want to go down to it right near us, come right back. All right, this is the first subroutine. We'll call it getNum. I'm only capitalizing it for no reason at all. I'll put my little extra comment. Now, what do? We know what we have to do here. We have to do a record number lookup to record number 1 in that file, and get that number, pop it on our invoice, and increment the number for the next time somebody else needs to create a new invoice. All right, let's do it. We want to do the lookup. You know what? We could probably use the wizard this time. Let's try it. I'll press F5. And I want to look into the file called VG control. I know that. Do I want to give this a lookup alias? And now VG control small enough I can type that in. So don't put an alias or a name for the lookup. How's the record going to be found? In this case, it is going to be a record number lookup. Okay. And what field in this file holds the invoice number? Well, we're going to say we'll put it into a file called RN. How about that? Okay, and now it wants to say, do we want to protect this lookup? Yes, absolutely. All right, and what do I want to do if I fail? Well, I always want to do something of my own. I'll say, don't worry about it. Don't do anything if it fails. I'll take care of it. Is this a browse lookup? No. Okay, now what happened here? We got a lookup built for us that basically says exactly what we want. Lookup into the VG control file. R equals RN, -NP. The P locks and protects the record. The N says don't do anything or fail. But what's this RN? That's just a 2-character variable that's going to hold our record number. And that's going to be looking like, I could say RN equals 1. Now the lookup will function. I can look right up to record number 1 because RN is going to be equal to 1. And some people, you might even see some people say 1, let's say record number is could be a big field. We'll make it a one character dot zero field equals 1 and look up with it. This is an old-timey way of doing things, to use up a 2-character variable. I'm showing you this just so that you'll know that some processing you'll see will look like this. It'll say use a variable because there was a time when you wanted to, there was never a time when you could say this. Look up using to record 1, literal record 1. That never worked for lots of reasons. So we had to use up variables, AB, or RN, record number, whatever made sense to you. We had to use up one whole variable just to do this silly little task. As FilePro grew and matured, the version came out where we can use any kind of literal expressions here by doing this. Just putting them in quotes and parentheses. We could put any expression in here, really. We could put a declared variable in here like yes underscore no if we wanted to. Anything within parentheses, the expression that works, will work in here. But in this case, we just want the literal value 1. Okay? And we want to get rid of this thing because I just was showing that to show you some legacy things you may see. Look up VG control, record number equals 1. Once we get to that record, all we want to do is take whatever we find in the first field on that record and we want to pop it into our invoice number. Our invoice number is field 1, so we want to say 1 equals VG control field 2. Isn't that correct? If I press F6 and F6 and I look at VG control, it's field 2 that holds our invoice number, not field 1. We're using this control file to get a different sequential number out of it. So, okay, I'm now getting 1 equals whatever I find in that field, and now what do I have to do? I have to increment that field so the next person take VG2 equals VG2 itself, plus 1. Okay? I have to do that right away, and the very next thing I have to do to unlock this record, say write VG control. That's the critical piece that unlocks this P. This protect flag locks the record. No one else will be able to see it. If there are other people adding invoices and they go to press escape to get a new invoice number, and we're doing it too, they're not going to be able to do it. Their process will just freeze right there and wait for us to get ours. But as I said, this all happens in the space of billions of seconds, nanoseconds. So this will happen very quickly. It'll give us our number, it'll increment the number, and it'll unlock the record immediately. What do we do after we unlock? Well, we'll do return, because we're done with the subroutine. Okay, let's see if this works now. Right after we get asked the question, does everything look okay? It's going to give us an invoice number. But you know what? We're not going to see that invoice number, are we? We're not going to see it because it's going to pop it on the record, and then if we're in add records mode, it's going to immediately take us to the next record. Okay, so let's just, for the heck of it, let's stop the process right here if we're getting a new number, just to see. Let's put a show @ which means just put up nothing, no show statement, just put up the thing that says press enter to continue. So that after we get a number, we're going to get a chance to look at it and see if it's there. Okay, let's watch what happens here. I go into this file, VG invoices. I go to screen 1 and I add an invoice, and let's put in ROG. Okay, we'll take that one. And we'll put in today's date. It's an invoice, and we won't have any of that. We'll sell no particular product number. We'll sell some big things from my attic, and we're going to sell a quantity of one of those big things, and they were worth $92.14. Okay, now that's enough for me. I'm going to press escape. It says, does everything look all right? And I press this key, and there pops in the invoice number 100, and the program is waiting there saying press enter to continue. When I press enter to continue, bang, we're on a new invoice ready to add in. Everything is fine. If I go look into the file VG control, and I go to record number 1, what's happened here is we have an affected field. Well, we still have customers, only 40 customer numbers used up, but now the next available invoice number is 101, and that's what the next person who locks that record to get it will get. We're pretty much done with this system now. There's only one more nicety I'd like to add, and I'll do that in the very next record. I keep calling them records. The very next record is the very next lesson. Well, you start playing with FilePro, everything becomes files and records and fields, and that's the way it is.